Howdy, 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 howdy. All right. How's everybody doing? So today is going to be a live stream. So I was going to do like a tutorial on this, and it it just wasn't coming out the way I wanted it to. So I decided I'll just do a live stream instead. We kind of did it with the Mind and Motion students last week. We had where they got to talk about, they wanted to know how I made the worm and stuff. So, it was pretty fun to get to chat with them and talk to them while we did it. So let's just go ahead and create Dune and the worm and everything. And we'll talk about some tips and tricks and things and some resources like where to get this ornithopter and stuff like that. And then we'll also talk about one thing I really wanted to show, which I don't think we'll do this today. But if we look at Arrakeen here, right, from Arrakis, so we've got the city. You look at these mountains back here, right? And so the first thing I want to say is, like, this is Hollywood level. Like, we definitely... What's up? What's up? Thanks. So let's go. Yeah. So this looks like the same mountain, right? So you like look at this, splits down here, it comes a little different, but maybe these are like the same things, but like mirrored, right? Because this split looks a lot like this split, but if you flip them like that. So Hollywood does stuff like that too. Like it's and the whole thing is these both look an awful lot like, if you come in here to Quixel and we type in sandstone, check this out. Got gigantic sandstone mountain, and you can't tell me that isn't that, right? Which, why wouldn't it be? I mean, it looks good. It's got assets to it. It's available. So yes, the power to make Hollywood level productions are literally available to us at home, which is crazy. 2024, who knew? All right, so let's just go ahead and, what's up, AR? Let's talk about just creating these verms in the desert and stuff. And what we'll need, we've got a couple different iterations of things I worked on. We've got this one, which is more of just a big focus on the worm's teeth and stuff. I probably made like 50 billion worms over the time in the scene. So we really want to talk about just answering whatever questions you guys have in chat. But we'll go over the easiest way to model the worm, the easiest way to get the teeth going. And then the big thing is going to be really like the fog and controlling the fog in Redshift, because the way Redshift has fog set up is it's super capable of making really amazing things, but nothing about it is like intuitive and easy to use. What's up? Hey, Thomas. Welcome. Yeah, so we'll get started and we'll show off some resources of where you can get this ornithopter and stuff, which, by the way, we'll just start off with that because in case you want to like start playing around with that, we just go to Sketchfab, right? So go to Sketchfab and you want to filter by downloadable, and we're just gonna type in Dune. And you can see there's some ones you can buy, which will probably be, better textures and stuff, but there's some pretty good ones that are free, like this one here. There's a Fremen you can use. There's a sandworm if you want that one. I don't like the smaller sandworms. I like the big ringmouth worms. This one's pretty cool. It's rigged, but I do not understand how to use the rig. So I ended up going with this one, I believe, because the textures of it were like decent enough. Like, it's a free model. It's awesome. And it's just in a good position that you can just like sit it on the ground and it worked fine. Actually, this might be the rigged one that I didn't go with. Yeah, this one's rigged. And so we ended up, I think, actually going with, no, this is like a one that someone made in Space Engineers, the game. That's right. Which is impressive because Space Engineers is tricky. So I ended up going with this one, I think, for that. So if you want one to be flying, you might look at the other one that's rigged because it's like default set up in the flying, what's the word for that, orientation. Is the sound and everything coming in good? Is everybody good? I think we should be good. Let me know if you can't hear what I'm saying. But yeah, so this one's probably got the best like Dune-like textures. They're not like amazing or anything, but they're free and they are pretty good. So pretty cool. So we're gonna go. You can go ahead and just download that and get the FBX. Would be the way to go for that. All right. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about just creating this from scratch, from concept to like creating landscapes to creating the whole vibe in the scene. What's up, hedgehog legs? Welcome. So we'll talk about everything. So we'll create a new scene. We'll get rid of the render view here. And the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure it's like cinematic. So I'm going to make it widescreen, not like that. We'll do 1080. We're not going to do like IMAX or anything. but just a nice widescreen over a square for this Dune thing. And you can go up to 4K if you want, but the cool thing is, like, you know, it's the same ratio, so you can lock it in, right? Click, and then when you scale it up, you'll be fine. Let's talk about Redshift settings real quick, just what I like to do when I'm creating in this look dev kind of building phase. We'll put everything in low. We'll use optics denoising, hardware ray tracing on, and we're going to go ahead and do a GI to brute force, and we'll come to our system. I've got a 3090, so I'm going to go 512, and I found that horizontal is faster than spiral and Hilbert, just barely, but it's really up to you. That's personal choice. The speed difference between these doesn't matter. Horizontal just makes it go like this, like a printer, versus this bucket spiral out, which is kind of annoying sometimes. And then memory, we've got to set to 85 rather than just 90. That's really just because I'm streaming, because I'm using the GPU on the stream software. So you can probably keep that at 90. But if you ever run into issues with like VRAM or anything, drop that number down first and drop these buckets down. And that's going to get you going. If you have like anything less than a 3090, like a 3080 or 3070, whatever, however much VRAM you have, you're going to want to drop these buckets down first, because that's going to be the biggest enhancement for your speed. So like a 3070, I would stay around 256 rather than go up to 512, because you're going to end up seeing slower render times. Even though you may have a 3060 or 4060, something like that, that's like the low end, but it says it has more VRAM. It doesn't actually optimize all that VRAM, so keep it low as well. That's a whole thing. I don't know. We won't get into all that. So let's go ahead and just get started. So we're going to delete everything. So let's talk about process. Well, we know we want to create a giant landscape, and we need it to be outside, and we want it to be dunes, and that's really all we need to know for now. So what's the first thing? Well, I like to add lights first. Only dome lights, though, not like specific lights. If I'm building abstract or anything, I don't like that. And the only reason I like to add lights for the dome light is because it just looks better than that weird standard flat lighting. So we're going to go with dome light. We're going to open up the asset browser, and we can type in desert, and we're going to sort by media, type in desert, grab this desert EXR, drag it in, because what's better for a dune environment than desert, right? Perfect. Get rid of that. Done. So now we have that, so we can kind of rotate around and see where our sun is. Kind of up high, not quite as low as I would want. I'd kind of want it lower to give those dunes more harsh shadows, but we'll figure that out later, right? All right, so for creating the dunes themselves, all we're going to do is create a landscape. And yes, we're going to use the landscape object because it's actually really, really good at this. So when creating these scenes, you really need a sense of scale. So like if you're doing something abstract, like a bunch of fun shapes and stuff, and there's just kind of, or cloth just kind of fluttering around and stuff, and you don't really have anything, scale's not that important. You can fake it and stuff like that. But when you're doing a landscape, scale's important because of the way the lighting works, the fog works, and it's just going to help kind of make everything fit better and look more correct. Because if you know, we could make a model of everything and then shoot it a certain way, and that would definitely work. I mean, it's just like you're not locked into that, right? You don't have to build it realistic. If, you know, Hollywood's been doing it for years, you know, they don't always build a full-size set. They build models, right? So Minas Tirith, a great example of that from Lord of the Rings, but I digress. What I'm talking about is grabbing this cube and clicking and holding, going down to our figure. And that's going to give us a guy, right? And he's guy size or girl size, whatever, human size. And you can see that our landscape doesn't quite look like a huge dune landscape anymore. It kind of looks like a pile of dirt. So we definitely want that to be way, way, way bigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to say add 2 zeros, 2 zeros, and 2 zeros. Now it's huge, right? Now we've lost it. So we're going to zoom way out. And this might be too huge, but it doesn't seem too huge. And if you're zooming out and you realize, oh, I can't even see it, that's called view clipping. So you hit Control D, and you can go to your project settings, go down to display, and increase your view clipping size to like large. I wouldn't go to huge unless you absolutely have to, but because when you're on huge, when you zoom in on the smaller details, you can lose some of those. So it's kind of a balancing act. It's weird, but here we go. So now we can grab our guy and go ahead and do our placement tool, and we can just click anywhere on the surface. And now we kind of get the sense that, okay, this is a little more like a dune landscape. Maybe we can go bigger if we wanted to, but we'll start with this, right? So how do we create nice looking sand dunes really quickly and easily with this landscape? Well, it's actually super simple. We're going to grab both of these height, width, and depth segments and crank them up to 1,000. Boom, boom. So now we have a lot more detail. But we're going to get rid of our fine furrows. Take those all the way down to like 1%. And you can see kind of it's starting to look kind of Dune-y, right? But the biggest thing we're going to do is right here it says border sea levels, which is what makes all of this flat on the edge. We don't want that. We don't care about that. And what that's going to do is that's going to build us dunes just like that. Wow. Cool. So if your dunes don't look like this or whatever, you know, you can lower the height of this down. You can make your dunes more subtle. But I think somewhere around 8,000, 5,000 is going to be pretty nice because we want those good high sand peak dunes. And so you can adjust this. It's procedural, which is pretty cool. We'll go back to 10,000. And what we can do is, you know, we can adjust the sea level. So some of it's just like more flat, which is going to give us like big flat gaps and that. So we can do it like that if we want. We can lower the amount of rough furrows, but we'll keep everything at 0 for now. And we'll put our rough furrows back up a bit. We don't want to be like this. Like that's a little, well, it's not too bad, but they're kind of too condensed. Like sand dunes would maybe look like that. And so we're going to maybe play around with the scale, which is the other thing I would adjust. And increasing that scale is going to tighten it all in and make everything like crazy too cavernous, right? But if we scale it down and maybe go a little bit below 1, we might be able to get those like nice big amount of dunes that we have, but then they're separated out enough that it looks pretty decent. Like if I want to take my guy and put him right here, I don't mind that, right? That looks like a big dune landscape. Is using Cinema 4D's built-in physical render engine okay? I don't know. Ever since I've used Redshift 5 years ago, I've never used anything else. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, if it gets you the results you like, sure. It's not going to be as fast or anything, but it depends actually. If you don't have a GPU for rendering GPU rendering, then it would be as fast. So just use whatever. But I mean, Redshift does come with C4D for free included. It's just the CPU renderer. So if you want to follow along, you still can. With this, just know it's going to be slower. But you will get the exact same look. So if you want to try the CPU version of Redshift out and then realize, okay, I want this to be fast because that's kind of the whole point of Redshift. Well, the real perk of Redshift, then swap over and grab that. Okay, so we've got this, and I don't like how peaky and chunky and jagged our little mountaintops are, but we've already like segmented this 1,000 by 1,000. So if you look at the display here, I don't want to subdivide this. This is already crazy high. I don't want to go crazy. C4D would probably handle it fine, but I don't really want to subdivide it. So how do I make this smooth? Well, we can actually just add a smoothing deformer, which is like magic. We're going to click that, and voila, it's going to smooth that stuff out for us without adding geometry. So the geometry is exactly the same. The end result, though, is smoother. So we've lost some of those fine furrow details, but honestly, that's fine because we're going to bring that back in with our texture map and stuff. But smoothing is like kind of like a super Phong tag, if you want to think of it that way. So basically, it will allow you to smooth an object as if you've added a subsurface division on it without actually doing that. And you can come in here and lower it down and stuff and adjust it. But honestly, I think at 100%, we're looking pretty good, right? I'm happy with that. So let's just go ahead and add our sand on here just to get our scene rocking and rolling. So we'll go to Quixel, and Quixel Bridge works really well now. Used to have to go in and like get this patch from the forums and install that and delete this stuff and put it in, but now Quixel just instantly works, which you can use goes smoothing deformer affect UVs. No, it doesn't change the geometry. It does. It doesn't change affect the geometry, but we're not even worrying about UVs with this anyway because it's just a big landscape for this scene. I haven't tested it on a bunch of like particular objects, but it shouldn't because it doesn't change the polygons. So that's what UVs are based on. So it should be fine, but test it out. Let me know. So what we're going to do with the thing with Quixel, right, is everybody thinks it's totally free to use, and it's not, right? It's free to use with personal projects and for learning. Now, if you're going to do client work, you need to pay for Quixel, and it's very affordable for what it offers. It's $20 a month. I don't have a subscription. I just use it to teach with and for personal work. I don't ever, use it for client work or anything like that. So it's just fun to do that. So you could always just like buy it for a month and then do your job and then, you're done. But for Unreal Engine and stuff like that, it's totally free, which is fine. So you can sign up for the free one, say you're using it for Unreal Engine when you download it, and then that'll give you access to all of it for free, right? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and grab rippled sand right here. We'll just type in sand here and we're under the 3D, the surfaces, which is what it calls all this materials. And so we'll grab rippled sand, and what you can do is you want to go in here and check your settings. So you've got export settings, and we want to make sure everything's set to C4D. And we've got textures. JPEG is fine for me. We could probably do fancier textures, but it's fine. And then surfaces, we want to make sure we have displacement set to a JPEG, because a lot of times displacement comes in an EXR. And we could try it. We'll try an EXR. It's going to bring it in at 32-bit, and that's fine. But a lot of times we won't need it to be that fancy. Mainly I do JPEG because it's just so much smaller of a file size that it helps build the previews and stuff. Now, if I'm going to do something like a super tight shot on something and I want the displacement map to be really crisp, I'll use an EXR. Now, the important thing to note is when you're doing this, you're only affecting textures when you're downloading like a pure texture. But if you're downloading a model with a texture, you actually have to go, I believe, into the textures and then go down into the assets. And inside of those, you have different settings where you need to do it there too. So it's not all textures. So we'll change this one to JPEG. So my model textures displacement will come in with that too. So I feel like rocks. So it breaks it up into each different thing. So if there's a certain way you want to do, I just want you to be aware that you need to do it within each one. Okay. That's fine. And then we'll go to download settings, same thing. Make sure they kind of match up. Albedo, we can do diffuse. Sure, why not? Normal's fine. AO, half this stuff won't come in anyway, so it doesn't matter. But you just want to make sure you kind of have some, whatever, something matching. You don't want to be like telling it to import stuff that you're not downloading. So you just want to make sure you get all that going. All right, then under extensions, we have Megascans plugin, which is what installs after you install Bridge. And you just want to make sure that it's using EXRs when available. So if you are using EXRs, I like to have apply material to selection on, and I like to enable displacement. Even though it says enable displacement, it's not going to enable it because for whatever reason, Redshift does not let anything override the RS placement tag, but it will put the tag on there. It will put the displacement amount on there and have all of that checked. You'll just have to check override. One step closer to being good, I guess. Anyway, so with all of that said, we'll grab our landscape and grab Quixel Bridge and just hit export. We'll do 4K, that's fine. We could probably get away with 2K because we're going to stay pretty zoomed out, but in case we want to zoom in, we can. And again, I don't want to go with 8K because I don't need 8K to be this far away. And it looks like crap, right? Because it's applying this one tile of sand across a, how big is this? A 60,000 centimeter wide area. So of course it's not going to look good. So there's a couple of ways we could do that. We could add an OSL shader and all this stuff. If you've seen my video about fixing repeating tiles, we could do all that. But honestly, with the sand, it's kind of okay that it repeats. So we're just going to say like 80 and 80. And you kind of get a feel of what that's going to look like. Right? And we can go ahead and hit render view on this just so we can get an idea. We won't have the displacement yet, but we'll get an idea of what that sand is looking like. And that looks about the right size. It's definitely tiling, and we can fix that here in a minute, really. I think we will, because I don't love the tiling, but I don't want it to be completely random. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So I'm not going to go over OSL shaders and stuff again, but what I will do is say that I have a video about finding these OSL shaders and setting this up. So I have an OSL hex tile coordinate, which I'll copy and put into my old shader. So this is the Quixel material. I hate it that it's the old shader graph. So we're just going to convert that real quick to replace with nodes. And now we have the nice new shader graph, right? Two things we want to do whenever using Quixel materials. One, I like to make sure that my color space is raw for the for the displacement. Really anything that's not color data. So we just type in raw here in the color space. And for displacement, I like to say -1 for the new range, so it kind of keeps your plane where it is rather than lifting everything straight up. It's just going to kind of do a little bit of that. All right, so that's looking good. Everything's looking good. So we're just going to hit paste, bring this in here, and we're just going to offset this. Offset. And again, I talk about what I'm doing here in that other tutorial. But pretty much this is just going to allow us to break the tiling up, and we don't want it to be rotating. So we're going to come in here and we're going to change this to 1 and 1 again. So back to just one big thing, and then use this to rotate. So let's say like 70 this time instead of 80. We'll take the blend amount real low, like 0.01. And then we'll take the height weight here, and we'll grab this, double click, copy, and paste. And this is just allowing it to maybe blend a little bit better with that displacement map. And we talk about that again. So the main thing we want to do is we want to make sure we don't have any random rotation. So turn that off. But scale, we do want like 0.6. And that's really all we need to do. So just by doing that, it's not going to look right in the viewport here. But if we come in here and we render this out now, you'll see we should have, rather than everything being totally uniform, we should have a little more variation between our sand waves, which should just help it look less tiled. So you can see some of these little patches of sand are real small, some of them are big, and it just looks more organic just by adding that one node in there. So super helpful, right? Very cool. Doesn't look like a texture from Nintendo 64 anymore. Nice. I'm happy with this. I'm happy with the colors. The sunset's looking good. All right, so far, so good. All right, so now it's pretty much, we'll save, and we'll call this like Dune Live. We really can come in here and tweak the lighting a little bit before we add our big worm. So let's just take a look at where my light is, because I want my light, where is it? Over there, yeah. I like the way it's cascading across these hills, but I kind of want to frame up my shot a little bit. So I like the light coming in this way, but I kind of think I want it to come in more this way and cast a shadow across that way. So we're going to grab that dome light and just rotate it around, and you'll start to see like that, maybe. We'll render it out. And again, you can just grab this, put it on here. And the reason I don't have the displacement on and stuff yet is because it just slows it down for a little bit. But I like that. I like that he's in the sun. I like the shade coming in that way. And now we just want to accentuate that with a light. So we're going to grab an area light rather than an infinite light. And the reason I like to use, and let me know is everything going good on the stream? It's looking good. I kind of have it up to make sure, but it says it's in good condition. I'm kind of just making sure everything's coming in. So just let me know if it all sounds good and stuff. Give me a thumbs up or something in the chat. But basically, with this area light, what I can do with an area light that I cannot do with an infinite light is add a gobo to it. And the reason I want to add a gobo is because, we kind of have like kind of a sunny, a kind of cloudy day, and something about just bright open skies where there's no extra clouds or contour in the lighting just feels a little boring, and just adding a gobo to that really helps just make the scene for me more like, thank you, MTO. Feels more alive, right? So cool. So we've got our area light. We're going to go down here, click this arrow, add target tag and null, which is going to create a null there that our area light's always going to be looking at. So super easy to adjust. We'll turn off our dome light so we can see what our area light's doing. And obviously it needs to be way, way bigger, like way bigger. So we're going to make it a disk. So it acts, what's up, Grand Buddha? Buddha? I don't know, Buddha. But we're going to say, we'll start with 20,000 by, 20,000. That's better, right? We're going to zoom out, but we really want this to be really big. So we're going to try to match the angle of our dome light. but we want it to be like a little more intense. And we just want to make sure, because the thing we're going to do here is rather than have it spread like this, is we're going to take it and we're going to go and take the spread down. So it's super focused. So it's not going to be like a soft diffused light. It's going to be like an infinite light, but we'll be able to control it. But the difference is, as you can see, it only affects, everything straight in front of this. So we need to make sure that this covers our whole landscape. So we got to make it bigger. And so we'll say double it, 40,000, better. And we'll just add, maybe we'll do 9 and 90,000. And that should be good, right? Cool. So now we can back this up and really fine tune our shadows and our shading. So let's say we want this to be our shot, right? So we'll kind of frame this up like this and add a camera. So we kind of have that shot there. And then I'm going to middle mouse click to come out to the side, zoom out, and I'm going to lift my light up just so I want to get that light to kind of roll down the side rather than be as sharp as it is. So we're just going to lift it up. And lifting that up, you can see you can start to really fine tune and control how your light's coming in. And I think like that's pretty good. Maybe down a smidge and back a bit. Smidge is a technical term. Somewhere around there. I like it falling down, but obviously it's insanely bright because it's huge, and area lights by default the intensity is amplified by the size of them, which makes sense. And so we'll take it down to like 1, and now it's too dark. So we'll go like 10 maybe. And that's probably okay. We can see our guy here. Hello. He's in the light. We've got this. So that's cool. And obviously our sand will look way, way better once we add the displacement. So let's go ahead and just enable that real quick. We'll save, turn off IPR before you do that. And so on the landscape here, underneath the redshift object tag, which came in with the Quixel material, you want to make sure you turn on override, and that's going to really turn everything on that we need to have on. But we're probably going to need to up the displacement like a lot, like 80. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. So we'll do 80 and 80, and we'll do that because we really need that to pop. Looking better. Okay, so what's happening right now is our screen space adaptive is coming in, and that's fine for right now because we'll fix it here in a minute. But we're going to take a look at this here. And something about this displacement just isn't quite right. And I think it's where I told it to go down in the negative. And so I don't think that we need it to go down all the way down to -1. Sorry, I got something stuck in my throat. So we're going to try to go to this displacement. I say -0.5 and then 0.5 to keep that ratio, because right now it's just too extreme. Excuse me. My allergies are so bad right now. And we can spam refresh. And there we go. Looking decent, but also looking kind of crappy. So let's save real quick and turn our smoothing off just to see what that's doing, because we are using the redshift tessellation of this, and I'm curious if that smoothing is taking this down or not. And it doesn't seem to be. Okay, cool. Just wanted to check that. Maybe. Okay. But what we can do, if it's being weird and not looking right, but we're going to come in here and turn off screen space adaptive, and it's going to be a lot slower, because basically what screen space adaptive is it tries to guess kind of where it wants to subdivide it, like what's on the screen and what's not. Whereas you turn off screen space adaptive, it's just going to do it evenly throughout your whole object. But that's going to make you lose a little detail, because it's kind of like, the best way to describe it is like pixel density in a VR headset, if you know what I'm talking about. So even though, your screens are a certain resolution, like you can adjust it so like wherever you're looking or the center point has more pixel density, so it looks cleaner. That's kind of how it's working, right? But I'm not loving that either. Maybe we just need to turn on smoothing and do it again. I don't want to get hung up on this. This is why I save often, because sometimes with redshift displacement lately, it's kind of annoying. So we'll figure it out. But again, it's not going to matter too much because we'll have so much other stuff going on that we'll really only need it to be in the scene here. So we'll get this going. But if it's freezing, we will just relaunch this. I really just, what I want from Redshift is a force stop render. Is that a thing? Does anyone know? Is like force stop? Yeah, I'll be right back. All right, so are we back? Is it coming back at all? I might have to just do a different stream. I might have to start a new one. Which is really annoying. Are we back? Holy cow. Fart Spark. Good name. Are we back? We're back. Wow. Redshift really put up a fight there. Okay, so what I was saying while that was all being crazy was that was a good example of what screen space adaptive does for saving memory. So basically what that does is it, rather than trying to tessellate the entire scene, which as you can see freezes everything on something that's 1,000 by 1,000, rather than that, it just tries to do it where the camera's looking to save on memory. And even that, it's kind of like think of it like a LOD, like a level of detail for displacement. So what I've done is I've come in here, I've just taken off that OSL shader because sometimes that jacks stuff up. I've set everything back to default settings just to see, and we've come back in here, set it to 80 and 80, and we'll just turn it on there. And we're gonna leave screen space adaptive on, and we'll take a look at that. All right, so thanks for bearing with me through that. That's always the fun part of live. I'm glad I was able to like bring it back. I really thought I was gonna have to have a different stream, which is gonna be annoying. There we go. Nah, it's all right. You see how much crampier it looks without the OSL on. So I don't know. I'm gonna put it back on there, guys. Undo, 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 undo. There, I'm putting it back. But we're going to delete this out of it. We're gonna take the blend amount off completely. That's what we're gonna do. Maybe that'll do something. I don't really know. I did this so many times, and honestly, the least of our problems is this sand texture, because really, it's not even gonna matter. But we'll come in here and enable this with screen space adaptive. That's fine. We'll turn on smoothing just so we can see, and this should give us a little better result. If you don't see your redshift stuff coming back on, refresh this. All right, sorry, we did not mean to spend this long on displacement, but it's a very common thing with Redshift to cause some issues. And right now we're just getting weird results, and that's just mainly because of the lighting, really more than anything. So if we turn our dome light back on, and we'll have our dome light plus our other light, we should get a little better looking results, and it shouldn't be too distracting, and we'll be fine. We've got it on low with denoiser, so yeah. We'll lower this down to like 40 and 40. We don't need to go crazy. We'll be fine like that. And if we want to add more detail in later, we totally can by lowering the minimum edge length, but then we're going to have issues with that. So, okay, let's just leave it at this. And we'll turn this off for now to save on render time, and we'll come back to that. All right. So we need to make the worm, which is why we're all here, right? We all want the worm. So let's just go ahead and create our worm. And the way to go about creating like big creatures and things like this is to break stuff down into its most rudimental state. So what is a worm? It's like a big tube, right? So tube. That's what we're gonna do. And our tube needs to be tall because our worm is long. So we're gonna stretch that up like that. And it needs to have a big old mouth. So we're gonna increase it. It needs to be big enough to, eat a harvester, right? So we still got our person here for scale, and we have that. So because we have that scale, we can really come in there and fix that. Let me get this out of my face. Get out of my face. So we're going to open up his mouth, scale him up, something like that. We definitely want to give him a lot of rotation segments. We'll say 100, so it's smooth. We'll say a couple cap segments and height segments as well. We want to come in here and we want to try to make these squares or rectangles, whatever, these polygons, as kind of uniform-ish as we can. And so we're going to add a fillet on here and increase the radius of that. It needs to be pretty big as well, like that. But now we have like too many segments right here on the top and not enough on this little fillet, right? So we're going to increase that to be kind of like that, and then decrease our cap segments so they kind of match. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And we're going to just add a few more here, so maybe 150, maybe even just 200 for the rotation, just going to give us a little more square. And the reason we want that geometry is not because we're going to like sculpt it, which I looked at trying to do. And if you're really good at it, you can definitely use like elephant skin stencil or the dragon scales. It's really good for creating the worm look, but there's actually an easier way to do it using displacement map, which is what we're going to do. So we've got this big worm. I want it to be a little longer, like that. Okay. We've got this big worm. He needs to have a bunch of segments there. The worm is the spice is the worm, and Redshift is working on desert power to handle this scene. Okay, so that's right, Michael. So let's go ahead and just talk about creating the worm and how we're going to do this. So what I want to do is create kind of this sort of organic mouth shape, kind of give him like that kind of a mouth. So we're just going to go ahead and hit C, which is going to make this editable. There we go. And we're going to go over here to Mesh, Brushes, and Grab. And just like that, with the fall off set how it is, we're just going to grab this, kind of pull it up and out, up a little bit, up a little bit, up and out. And it's just kind of this really organic, intuitive way to kind of create a little mouth here. Now you can go crazy and sort of mess things up a little bit if you're not careful, but we just want a little bit of open mouth going on, right? Where have you the skin downloaded? Basically, if we were going to use a sculpt brush, you would come in here and you'd go to Mesh, then Brushes, not Sculpt, but Brushes, and then Draw. And in order to see the stamps and stencils that you have, which is what you want, you need to click into the stamp or stencil tab, and then click this drop-down arrow. And this is where they will all appear. They all come installed with Cinema 4D. You don't have to find them. They exist. And that's where you would choose elephant skin or dragon skin or whatever like that. We're not going to do that, but that is where you would go. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to the edge select tool, and we're going to go ahead and get our selection tool here. And with our selection move tool clicked, we're going to go ahead and enable soft selection here in this tab. And what we're going to do is we're going to double click a line here kind of in the middle of our top. And we're going to just increase the radius because we kind of want it to grab a few of those areas around it. So it creates this like fall off where you're going to move stuff. Yeah, no problem. And we can just click and drag that up, and that's going to give us kind of that sharper worm mouth. And then we can hit T and scale that in a little bit. So now you kind of have a little bit more of a mouth that's organic and then open and coming back in. Right? So you could hard surface model this if you wanted to and stuff, but really you don't really need to, because what we're going to do now is create the worm's like skin, worm hide with a displacement map. So we're going to go ahead and turn off this because it's hard to look at, and go back in here. And if you're ever modeling on something, it does help just to throw a regular object on it, just so it's, you know, not pure black. And then we also can isolate this with this eyeball here in this hexagon, so we can really focus on what we're creating here. So we have the worm tube. I think he might need to be a little thicker, but you know what, let's just fake it, and we'll grab the edge and we'll come inside of his mouth. Phrasing. Jeez Louise. See, that would get cut from a video. We're going to hit T on a ring inside the mouth here, and we're going to scale that in, and we'll kind of do it throughout here like that. We're just going to kind of give him kind of this riveted, kind of, yeah, like that. We can say UI, and kind of bring it all in. Oh boy. Double click in here, and let's see, let's get one a little closer to the roof of the mouth, like that. Double click that, selects the ring, hit UI to get a bigger selection, and UI again so we get a few more, and then we'll just scale all that in a little bit to close off his mouth, like he's kind of got little valves. We won't really see much of that anyway. Doesn't really matter. We're gonna cover it up with teeth. All right, back here. Back, done with that. All right, cool. So we've got this cool worm. So what we're gonna do is we're going to just select this and choose displacement. Hold shift, put displacer on there. And because we have such high geometry in our worm, we can come in here and go to shading, go to noise, and just throw a noise shader on there. And that's going to affect our worm. We're not gonna see it much at all until we start scaling this up. And that's when you realize, we've got too much going on. So, you know, obviously that doesn't look good, but you can kind of get the sense as to why we tried to keep our geometry a little more even, because it's going to displace it kind of like that. So what we're going to do now is with our shading, we're going to get off here and we are going to choose Voronoi 3. And the reason we're going to do that is because you can see here, it kind of looks like reptile skin or something like that. Which is pretty cool, but we need it to be way bigger. So we scale this up way up until we start kind of seeing it in our shape here. So there we go. Now we kind of see a little bit going on here, not too shabby, right? And if we want to, we can add some extra geometry to our worm, but we'll see if we can get it without this. Okay, so we've got that going, but I want it to be more squished, like he's got like bands along him. So all we need to do for that is take this relative scale and pull that down. And this looks horrible, right? Really bad. We don't have enough geometry for this, so we need to add more geometry. So rather than adding a subsurface division on this, what I'm going to do is go in here to my display, and we're close to having enough. So I'm going to go ahead and hit in the polygon selection tool, hit Control A, and I'm going to hit U, Shift, S, because I don't really want to smooth it. I could smooth it, but I'm just going to add one more subdivision here and click that. And that's just going to add that geometry in there for us. So now when I displace it, we should get it coming in a little better, right? So now it looks a little more wormy and scaly. So we can keep scaling this down, kind of squish it, and keep scaling this up because we want those to be big like that, but then we want it to be kind of squished like that. Nice, cool. So we've got our worm here, pretty high tessellation, but not so high that it's gonna like freeze and mess anything up. But we have some nice, oops, worm skin going on. Wrong button. And so that's not bad, but I don't like the way it looks on the mouth, right? It looks really gross up there and horrible because we grabbed those points and whatever. So how do we fix that? Well, we easily grab a field and throw a linear field in there. And then we can see our little linear field down here is a little, we'll scale, we'll grab it. And what we're gonna do is pull it up and rotate it. So it's aiming down 90 degrees, and we can stretch it out. And now we can just kind of pull that up. So now we can kind of like feather into the mouth. So we're not getting all that displacement on the mouth tips and stuff like that. So we kind of feather into the worm there, right? Pretty good. And again, one more thing we can do is add that smoothing deformer on this as well. So we'll go ahead and grab that, and rather than having it be a child of that, we want it to be underneath the displacer as a child of the tube, and it is smoothing it out way too much. So we need to go in here and go to Object and just really take the strength of that down to like 15%. So now it's kind of a more organic, nice worm texture, right? I'm cool with that. How does it look scale-wise with our scene? This is a big one. This is a big boy. We can scale him down if we want, just a little. But your noise will react, you know? So keep that in mind. That's not too bad, though. Yeah. Okay, cool. So any questions so far? I know we had that big interruption with the displacement, but anything confusing about creating the worm's texture, why we needed to add geometry, that kind of thing? because we'll go ahead and move forward into creating his mouth or his teeth. So we'll go ahead and open this up, and teeth are just cylinders, right? So we'll isolate the cylinders here in a second, but I'm going to keep everything at 0 before I move anything around, just so I kind of have everything roughly in the same area to adjust so we can make sure we size things up correctly. So we'll grab this cylinder, pull it up, and we just want to roughly get the size of the teeth. So maybe that long. What's that? We'll do like 3,000. Cylinder is probably too big. 20, yeah, that's pretty good. And we'll do a lot of height segments. We don't need a lot of rotation segments, but we do need a lot of height segments because we're going to put a bend on this. And without that, they're going to be all janky, and we want them to be smooth and bendy. So let me illustrate that. We'll isolate this sphere. We'll go back to regular shading, and we'll put a bend deformer on it. Hold shift, put bend on it. And as we bend it, you see it creates a nice tooth like that. But let's say we didn't have all those height segments, and we take this back down to like 4, and you see we get kind of a So that's why we had those height segments in there. And we could probably get away with like 60 or something. It's fine. Cool. So besides the bend deformer, which we're going to take and set back to 0 because we don't want it to be applied just yet. Ken says, oh my God, you are not modeling that worm. I don't understand what that means. Okay. We're going to grab that and click and hold shift, and we're going to go ahead and taper this. And we're going to say fit to parent. Whenever you use these modifiers, you always want to say fit to parent, especially if you make any changes to the shape that you're modifying, because they will need to adjust to that. So just taper. We're going to just take that and crank it up, and you can see that that makes our teeth come to a point. Oh, I see. Gotcha. I'm like, yes, I am modeling the worm. Gotcha. Okay, so taper, looking good. So now what we need to do is take the cylinder, throw it in a cloner, hold Alt, click cloner, boom. Cloner, we're going to go ahead and go to radial, which makes it a ring. And we're going to scale it up, and we need to unsolo this so we can kind of see how this fits in the worm's mouth, right? So, yes, we are going to go ahead and crank this up so it clips into his mouth here, and we're going to say render instance. And the reason we're saying render instance over multi-instance is because I want to eventually maybe make this all one mesh. And if we do that, we need it to be on render instance and not multi-instance, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think multi-instance converts over. I guess we can try it real quick. So let's do this. And I say right click, connect objects, and delete. And now we have like one solid mesh, right? Whereas if I say multi-instance and I right click and say connect objects and delete, do we still have one instance? Oh yeah, it's still there. I guess you can. I don't know. So, but for now, we'll do render instance just for fun. And we'll crank that up to like a lot of teeth, 200 teeth, right? It's a lot of segments, a lot of teeth. And now we could put that bend deformer on and pull that down, and everything bends the wrong way, right? That's fine. So this purple line that's sticking up here, that's the taper, like the default taper going on there first. So it's just kind of distracting and annoying to look at, but we're going to leave it there. So with bend, we want to keep length, and then we just need to adjust the angle of this. And as we rotate this around, you can see you could create some cool effects like that. Like you can see how easy it would be to create like a camera iris or something. And honestly, this whole thing looks a lot like an eyeball when we're done. So we're going to say 270, and that's going to bring this in like so. And now we can really start kind of creating our teeth. Model the dragonfly vehicle, the ornithopter. No, but I will bring in a free model that someone else has modeled for me that's available to use. So we'll do that. Okay, so basically what we have here is the ability to bend this. We're going to bend it a little more, not crazy, because I like that, but I think our teeth need to be like a little longer, right? So we're just going to increase that. And when we increase the length of this cylinder, we're not going to see it affect it too much until we say fit to parent. And that's going to allow that bend to go back on there, right? And that's too tight, so pull it back somewhere in between. So maybe like that, and then go to bend, fit to parent, taper, fit to parent, like that. I like that size hole. That's no better way to say it. Okay. So now that we have that, we really need this to look a lot more random. So before layering this, what I want to do is grab the cylinder and control, click, and drag to make a copy of it. And in this cloner, I want to set this from iterate to random. So now it's going to go randomly between these two cylinders that we just created. So what we're going to do is take one cylinder and make it longer and go in here and say fit to parent. And then we'll copy again and rinse, repeat, and make this one shorter. And go to bend, fit to parent. And so now we already have this nice like organic difference in like the length and stuff. And we can also come in here to the bend and offset the angle slightly, even down here just a bit, so some of them are a little crooked. And just kind of creating some organic variation without getting too crazy. You don't want to go nuts with it. Stay within like 1 or 2 degrees. But that's looking pretty good, right? And then again, we'll do one more just so we can have a little bit more flexibility. This will be a little longer. Bend, fit to parent, and we'll just kind of bend that one even more like that. Cool. So now we have that on there. Let's go ahead and move it down the mouth a little bit, right? Get down in there. And we're just going to save. And then we're going to grab that and throw that in another cloner. And this cloner, we're going to set to linear. And again, render instance. So we're basically taking all of our teeth and we're going to just start layering them this way, because that's kind of how it works, right? So we're going to scale it up a bit so they're kind of spaced a little bit. And all we need to do now is we'll say like 5 count of them. And that looks really decent, but we're going to offset each layer a certain degrees. And you do that per step right here. So we're going to take the H and just rotate that. And now we have a really nice organic looking teeth, like mouthful of teeth, right? Worm teeth. Boom. Also seems like I really want to model an eyeball because it seems like a really cool way to do that as well. So that's looking pretty good. I think we need to take our original radius and crank it up just a bit more so it's all kind of coming out of the mouth a little bit better there. And that's looking pretty good. So now let's go ahead and texture this worm and this tube and link them together, and we'll call it worm. And you always spell worm with a U when you're doing sci-fi stuff, right? So we'll grab those two things and put them in there. And now we can like move these around together. Whoops. Grab the wrong thing. Helps grab the right thing. Cool. So save. All right. So if you wanted to, you could come in here to the cloner and this tube, and with this first cloner selected, so this is going to be whether, it depends on if you're doing a still image or an animation, right? So let's say we want to create like the effect that he's like kind of breathing, that it's like a natural, like there's something going on, like it's alive. And so with this cloner selected, we'll go up here, go to effector, and add a random effector. And inside the parameters of this, we're just going to mess with the position, and just a little bit though, like 50-50-50 is fine. Excuse me. 1 second. Ooh, okay. But main thing is the rotation. So we're going to put the rotation up a little bit of all of these angles, a little bit like that, and just mess with that. And inside of this random thing here, we're going to go in here to fields, and we're just going to go ahead and type in like a random field. Fine. We'll make the scale of it really big, like that, 8,000. And then we can say a loop period, and this is in frames, whereas in other noises, it's in seconds. So whatever. But we'll say something really big, more frames than we have, and an animation speed of like 1. Okay, so now when we hit play, we should get this nice movement, and maybe we need to crank it up a little bit more. There we go. Animation speed of 100 gives us this nice toothy vibe. So if you want it to loop, obviously you would put it at the frame of your video, and then it's going to loop, which is fun. So we have all these teeth moving around, which is cool. But we don't really even need that to be going on, but we can. So if you do then convert everything, ha ha he he, says, which software is easier to learn for beginner? I'm friendly with Rhinoceros, but strange to Blender, Maya, and other stuffs. What's easiest to learn? Side note, what's easiest to learn is just going to be whatever software you enjoy the best. I think Cinema 4D, the way it's laid out and the user interface and the way things work, it's easy to understand how things are going to affect one another and start building on a foundation. 3ds Max is really good for building buildings and like ArcViz. If you're going to get into that, that's a really good spot. It has a lot of good tools for that. If you're doing more motion graphics and special effects, well, maybe not special effects, but motion graphics like fun animation and cloth, floaty things, stuff like that, Cinema 4D is great because its tools are very intuitive and easy to learn, I think. If you're going to do character modeling and rigging, I would go with Maya. You're just going to find more content about it out there. Blender is obviously a good spot to start for free. I think almost everybody starts with Blender. I started with Blender. It's free. So if you want to figure out whether you like doing 3D or not, start there for sure. And you can use Redshift with that as well. But Blender is really great. It's cool. But it's all different. The cool thing is no matter what you pick, you can swap from one to the other and figure it out. That does take some learning, but everything has a huge learning curve, so it's all going to just take time and practice like anything. So that would be my suggestions. If you want to get into like simulations, like explosions, destruction, water, I would learn Houdini. All of that said, Unreal Engine 5 is also a contender in the ring now. If you want to do cool landscapes and things like that, I'm going to learn Unreal Engine 5. I've already started learning because I think it caters towards more of the things I like to create. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing Cinema 4D and Redshift. They work together well, all that stuff. But the real answer is no matter what you choose and start to learn, you're not wasting your time. Everything is going to be applicable to something else, some other software. I started in... well, if we can talk about any topics, we can. We can talk about any topics, yeah. So it's live. But basically, I like this topic. This is a very common topic, and I think a lot of people are beginners and they want to know. And it's a really tough thing, and that's kind of why I made the Mind in Motion workshop is for beginners in mind, because it is daunting to learn any 3D software because you can do anything with it. So, does pineapple belong on pizza? Okay, some things are crossing the line. No. Yeah, if you like it, sure. The answer is if you like that, yes. If not, yes. But whatever it is, we can all unanimously agree that Chicago deep dish pizza is not pizza. It's casserole. The cheese goes on top of the pizza, not the sauce, okay? Anyway, yeah, back to learning 3D. I started in Blender. Then I learned Cinema 4D. Then I learned 3ds Max. I learned Missile Ray. I learned C4D's physical renderer. I learned Arnold. I learned V-Ray. And then I went back to C4D and I learned Redshift. And do I think that learning all of those other things that I ended up not using was a waste of time? Not at all. It's all part of the process and it all attaches and links. Everything's really similar. Things just have different buttons and names for other things, but it's all the same. So it's whatever software you want to use. I would say start with Blender. You can always transfer over to whatever. It's free. So figure out if you like it and then go from there. Okay, so we're back to the worm. We've got the teeth. So let's go ahead and create the cool scenes. Let's go ahead and grab our ornithopter here from Sketchfab. I'll link it here in the chat. I'll put it below in the description later. There we go. We'll put that in there. But we download that and we can just bring that in. I think I have it open already. Let's see, file open. You can see I have Dune type 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way through 7 because I did this so many times. But here we go. Ornithopter, open. There it is. And it's not like perfect, right? It's kind of a cool. You know what it was, though, is it was free. So let's go ahead and grab that, copy that, and bring it into our Dune live scene. Hit paste. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and put those both in a null just so we can move them around together. And we'll use our placement tool, and we'll slap it down here on the ground next to our guy. You can see, you know, scale-wise, we're looking pretty good. We've got this bad boy sitting here. We've got our big worm there. We're looking good. We can talk about texturing and things here in a second. So with all these materials, they come in as standard materials. Fine. Nothing came in right, really, because if we hit render on this, I think it's going to come out, well, we'll see. It should come out white, but we might have to replug some stuff in, which is not a big deal. No, it's fine. Cool. So we'll open this up. No textures there. Weird, right? Open this up. Here we go. Diffuse, reflection, weight, which apparently is pure black, which is not what we want. It should be a map. Dune ornithopter, textures. We have AS and SMDI, which honestly, I don't know what those are. So I don't know. So we're going to delete that. So we don't need that. But what we will do is create our own. We're going to use a ramp here. And, well, yeah, no, actually, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come over here. And we're going to go to imperfections. And we're going to grab just some, like, scratches, right? Scratches like that. Because we, you know, it's in the desert. It's been going through all that spice. So it's going to be all dented up and stuff. So we're going to grab that, throw that on the roughness map. Grab a copy of that, and it's just like rotate it 90 degrees, so it's not exactly the same. Rotate 90. Is that working? Why is that flipping off? There we go. Okay, and we're gonna grab that and mix that with this bump map here. So we're gonna say, see, we type in bump. We're gonna select both the bump map and the bump blender, bring those in, and we're gonna go ahead and plug this in here. Boop, boop. And this needs to be set to height field. Looking good, but we want this to be -1 because we want all the white scratches to be actually indented into the ship. And so we're going to say -1, and we're going to add that into the bump input here, add this and the bump input there, and then just, you know, make them additive. Put the weight all the way up to 1 and make it additive and slide this in right there. So now another thing I want to do is I just want to this material to be more metallic. So we're going to say like 0.8 for the metal, which I think is just going to make it look cool. All right. And what's this one here? This seems to be the same exact material. So I'm going to grab this one and hold Alt and just replace it. Should be fine. And this one, I think, is our glass. So we're just going to say transmission, crank it up, and set it to like sort of a very light kind of green like that. And we'll add some reflection on there like that. Lower the IOR. Should make it kind of like that. Yeah, there we go. Now that's glass. Nice. All right, so we'll come in here and take a look at this real quick and see how that's looking. It'll probably be in the shade right here. No, it's a little half in the shade. But it should look half decent, right? The glass is kind of weird because they built it with like 2 layers. So it looks kind of funny, but we could probably fix that. Let's just go ahead and add some extra roughness and take some of this color out to like a darker. So it's like more black. So you kind of lose some of that weirdness there, and it just becomes more of like a cool shaded cockpit, right? But the main thing is like the Fong tags are all jacked up there. So let's just take this back down to like 40. And I think this one is the one we need, 40. So that should fix that weird. So if you ever see it, like the geometry on the helicopter looked right, but when it rendered out, it looked weird. And that's because the Fong tag was janky. And you can see we've got all these scratches and stuff on our plane, and so much so that it looks like it's made of crumpled up paper. So that's way too intense. So 2 things we're going to do. The roughness, it's probably fine. Not too worried about that. But what we'll do is we'll scale these both up so they're really small, which I know scaling up doesn't sound like it should make things small, but scaling up a texture makes it tile, so it does make it smaller. And we'll do the same thing with this, and we'll take this bump and make it much, much less intense. We'll say like negative 0.1. And so now when we render this out, we should get a nicer looking, rather than looking like a dinky old toy, we should get a much more small, less polished look, and it should look pretty decent. Not too bad. So on top of that, we can still grab our shape and throw a smoothing deformer on it, because we're getting all these like weird low poly looks. So throw a smoothing deformer on it. That's going to be way too much. But we're going to say stiffness up really high. Okay. And that's going to help keep the shape. And we're going to have to go really low, like 10. And it's going to just help a little bit. It's not going to fix everything all the time, but it does help a little bit with that. So now our ornithopter is looking decent. I'm happy with that. Yeah. Might mess with the roughness map here. So I'm going to isolate that so we can see it go on here. And that's pretty good. It's probably too rough. So what I want to do is add a ramp. And the reason I add a ramp is just a good visual way to control what's black and what's white, right? So black is going to be shiny, white's going to be matte. So we'll isolate that now. And I want it to be more shiny than matte. So I'm going to slide this down like that and slide this up like that. So we're going to get somewhere in between like that. So there'll be some parts that are still pretty shiny and some parts that are pretty rough. All right, we'll undo that and we'll take a look at what that looks like. Should just look like a more natural metal look than being as matte as it was. We could pull this back a bit to make it more metallic if we want to. Yeah, okay. Cool. Not too bad, right? Decent. All right, whew, let's texture our worm finally. Come in here, let's create a new texture with my texture button here. If you don't have that, take the Mind and Motion workshop, learn how to make it. It's worth it. I'm actually going to be taking the Mind and Motion workshop and breaking it up into individual chapters that you can buy, because I understand a lot of people just aren't ready to do 15 weeks of like and 40 plus hours of training. So I'm going to allow you to buy bits of it to go as you please, right? Because it's a lot. But all right, so here we go, new material. And for this, we're really just going to kind of add a noise. So add a max on noise, isolate that. Let's throw it on our toofs. We probably won't even see this. We'll go ahead and render this. Play, render. We're just going to drag and drop this in like that. We'll grab this and throw it on our worm teeth, which is this cloner here. There we go. And all we're looking for here is a little bit of variation in the teeth, because whenever you're coloring anything organic in the world, you really want to use like a noise or a ramp or something to give it a variation in color, even if you do two almost identical colors. Just because nothing is like perfectly one color like that unless it's like painted, right? Not manufactured. Okay, so noise. First things first, let's do like turbulence, and let's scale it way up, like, I don't know, probably like 150. Oh, way more than that. Okay, 500. We'll set it to world. Okay, maybe even more. 1500. There we go. So we have some variation there, and we can just kind of up the low clip, pull down the high clip just to make it a little more contrasty. And now we can just color it like sort of a dusty, sandy color. Obviously, it's been eating a lot of sand, and it's not been brushing its teeth. It's a big old worm, so it doesn't need to be anything too bright. We'll do like that. Very similar. And that's really it. We'll plug that into the color here. We'll make it a little rougher, like 0.4-ish. And that's not bad. I did at one point make one that was all subsurface scattering. It looked amazing, but it took forever to render. So we're not doing that. But that just gives it a little more of an organic look than, especially on a cloner, than having everything be exactly one color. We might make this like a little lighter. Like that. Yeah. Cool. Okay. I dig it. Looking good. Now, let's do the worm skin. So in order to do the worm skin, we'll save, and we're actually going to come in here to Quixel. And this is an idea from Michael, who I don't know if you're still in the chat, Michael. Thank you for the idea of using skin. So using Quixel Bridge and going to skin and using what's cow skin, right? So there's some weird animal fleshes here. Like cow skin looks kind of wormy. Like, look at that one. Like these, like inner cow skin, right? So this looks good. This looks like good, gross worm skin that we can throw on here. So we'll just do 2K because our worm's going to be kind of in the background. So with our worm tube selected, I'm going to go ahead and export that and throw that on there. Tube. And that's going to throw that on there. And we're just going to get this really disgusting looking cow. So again, grab that, take that to material, tools, convert and replace with nodes. And refresh, because it shouldn't have broken it, but it does. But we got to stop it, restart it. I don't know. It's been weird. It's been weird like that lately. Albedo, I know you're there. I know you're hooked up. Why are you not showing up? See, this has been happening. So I just have to take it and put it back on there. I don't know why, but you have to reapply the material sometimes, and that fixes that. We're looking decent. Let's go ahead and grab that texture and let's set it to cubic, just because we want it to wrap around our worm nice and even. And we're going to have to make that way smaller, like 0.01 and 0.01. We could use triplanar or something if we want, but really our worm's going to be kind of not the tight focus of the shot anyway. So we're really going to be looking down his mouth. So it's not going to matter too much. But that's looking decent, and we definitely want it to be darker. So we could just come in here to adjust, color multiply, and we'll make them just like a darker, sandier color. Too much so. That's not bad. And obviously we have no bump map, and we just have displacement. And really we don't need that, right? We just need a bump map really. Because we've already built the displacement with the displacer modifier. So we're just going to drag this into the bump and use that into the overall bump, because this is an old RS material. There we go. And we can crank that up to like 3 and say -1 for the minimum. Just to give it a little extra detail. We're not going to get that much out of it until we start maybe tiling this a little more. So we'll say like 0.3 and then 0.1. Is that going to be a little better what we're looking for? No, it's not. 0.1. That's all right. That's all right. And so now what we can do is save again. Turn on the tessellation of this. It's just going to give us that weird cow skin. So we'll say like 150 and 150. And we should have displacement on top of displacement modifier now. We should look decent. And we can always fix it all later. It's not going to matter too much, because most of the time, don't spend forever on this, because we're going to pretty much just make it so that we're going to go ahead and here, and we're going to say raw. It's going to be kind of in the background. Between hairs and scattering, same amount or size, which choice is better time-wise for rendering? Scattering. By a long shot. Okay, let's do like 1. Let's just keep it full big size and see what that looks like. All right, so now I can zoom out of our worm, and we're tiling way too much, right? So we'll say like 0.01, 0.01. And I think we just need to make sure the displacement scales up with it, right? So this, and we're going to say like add a 0, because our worm is huge. Too much. Displacement, -0.5 and 0.5. And again, this isn't going to be, it doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to get it close. And if you ever see these weird little edges where it's like jagged and doesn't seem like it applied right, it's because it didn't. So I'm not loving this. So I think what I'm going to do is just take it off, and we might just layer another layer of displacement on it later, just with our own, like a different material, which we could totally do. Yeah, so that's actually what I'm going to do right now. We're going to go ahead and grab these imperfections, and I'm going to grab maybe this. Sorry, you hear my dog snoring back there? You see her? You seen the video? Oh, wait. My video's cutting her off. Hold on. Check this out. Which way are we going here? Other way. Here she is. Come on. It's lava. He's back there snoring. Little corgi. Okay, sorry. Got derailed by that. So we're going to grab this like imperfection map, and we're going to use that as displacement. So we're just going to use the texture map for the weird organic kind of grossness, and then we're going to use this for the texture. So we'll isolate this on here with this solo button, put it on here, and that looks pretty good. We can do it two ways, right? So we can have this be like the scratches and scrapes down the side of the worm, or we could rotate it sideways and maybe get this to be like extra rings, and maybe that'll look pretty good as well. But let's just go ahead and go back to just being up and down, and we really want it to be more contrasty. So again, a ramp, you don't have to use a ramp, you can do it within the texture. I just think visually it's easy to just like grab this and clamp it, right? Like that just makes sense to me. So isolate that, boom, there we go. And so what I want this to do is I actually want to swap these colors. So I want the white cuts and stuff to be like digs into the worm rather than coming out of the worm. So we'll do it like that. And so now that comes in here, and we're going to set this to negative 0.4 to start, and throw that on the displacement. And we'll see with that combined with the cow skin where we're at, and that looks much, much better than the cow skin's displacement, right? So if we look at that worm, we get a pretty gross looking worm, right? I like that. And so now if we want that to be a little less intense, we can just style back this a bit more. And that was to the point where it's non-existent now. We refresh. It's going to bring it back. There we go. Nice. Okay. So we just want to now dial this back in, and we'll say like a negative 0.5 on that and 0.5 on this, which should help with these spiky bits here. Refresh again. It's a lot of refreshing right now with displacement. It didn't used to be like that. But that's looking pretty good. I think we're looking pretty good. We just need to kind of smooth it out so there's not as much small detail. Because right now we're getting a lot of the small detail, and we don't need that. And that's coming from the texture map here. So we need to turn some of this speckly bits into more just like plain old white. So we're going to grab this and slide this up until it becomes less so. So kind of don't want to go that far. Not much. I think I'm doing the wrong thing, aren't I? I want to go this way. Too much. And it could be the fact that we need to just use a different map, but that's not, I don't hate it. We also can come in here to our actual shape, our actual thing, and adjust and maybe make it all like slightly grayer. I don't know that we need to do that though. Yeah, we don't need to do that. Adjust, maybe you need to adjust the size. How's everybody doing? Everybody following along? We're doing good. So a smaller scale is going to make it bigger. Yeah, which should give us a little bit less of that. And so maybe we pull this back all the way. like that. I really want to get to the point where I don't have as much dots and I have more of just those big cuts. Yeah. So maybe the feathering of that will be okay. We'll see. We might just need to choose a different map. It's all trial and error. That looks bad. Feather it back. Refresh. It's kind of the process, right? So I did this like 5 times and kept changing what I was using. So, you know, we could play around with something that's a little more like this. So it's just more black and white from the get-go. Less small textures, maybe less speckles, more scratches. We can go with that. Download that. Drag and drop that in here. Turn this off. Drag and drop. Thank you. Plug that in. There we go. Pull that back. Isolate that on here. And we're just looking for something that looks like it has good. Yeah, like that. So it shouldn't be too like speckly this time. We should be more just like scrapes and lines. And I want it to be bigger though. So we're going to go with like 0.2 and 0.2, like thicker lines. And pull that back. I don't want too thick. We'll go to like 0.6 and 0.6. Because you can also layer these things in. All that stuff. Okay, let's try that. And then we'll move on from this because you can figure out creating the worm and making it look a little better. Just like that. So refresh that. Ugh. 0 and 1. Leave it like that. We can blend those things together. Let's look at it like this. Part of that's going to come down between. Okay, so. Okay. Ooh. Okay, we're looking decent. We're spiraling down our worm. That's not horrible. I don't love it. Our worm needs to be the roughest map of this. Silly. We don't need that. We just need it to be pretty rough. In general, 0 metalness for sure. Okay. And we'll leave it at that for now and then come back to that later, right? This is the part that's one of those details that you worry about in the last like however many seconds. You know what I'm trying to say? All right, so we're gonna grab this and we're gonna pull this down. And actually we're not. What we're gonna do is we're gonna right click this and we're going to well, I'm gonna try to use a connect object because I want the animation of the teeth. But I also want to be able to bend it. So I'm going to see if this works. If I put a bend on that, does it bend my worm and teeth together? No. That's fair. Bent a couple of them. Well, let's try that again. Go back. So if I make my cloners instances instead, is that going to bring them in? Cloner instance. It's brought my teeth in now. Nice. But you can see our worm's looking pretty good. It was looking kind of rough there for a bit, but now when you actually see it, it's like, okay. Cool. So we've got a bend modifier on our connect object, which allows us to keep that and allows us to keep our moving teeth. Yes, so our teeth will move, which is cool. Yeah. Very cool. Nice. Okay, so grab our object. This is our worm now. Worm. And we'll rotate that just so it's like looking back at our dude, obviously. Lean it over a little bit, hit E, pull it back. Like that. And maybe bend it just a smidge more. But we want to keep length on. We're stretching our worm out. We don't want to be doing that. All right. Up. Oops, I'm moving the bend modifier and not the worm. Make sure you grab the actual object and not the bend when you're moving it around. Cool. Go back to our original camera now. And we kind of get an idea of the scale. We've got our ornithopter and our worm. back there now. So now we can decide, okay, framing. How do we want this to look? How do we want to put our ornithopter? How do we want to do the fog and the lighting? And add that gobo in finally that I talked about like an hour ago into this. So grab that. Let's do the area light now because I want to. So we'll hit render on this. We'll grab our camera and change it to a 24 so it's more of a wide angle. We're just going to look at it a little more like from the top. Okay. And we'll grab our area lights, we'll open up the asset browser and type in gobo. Now, there's a lot of gobos in here from Maxon, and there's some I've made and stuff like that, but we'll try to use one that everybody has access to, so we'll use the ones from Maxon. So we'll grab the one you want, like you kind of got to blur your eyes and look at it because that's how we're kind of going to be applying it. So you want it to be one that has some white patches and some dark patches, obviously, but you don't want it to be like too crazy that it doesn't work. So again, pretty easy to just trial and error, but we'll do this one, right? So we'll grab exterior tree tile UV4 volume 1, version 1, whatever. And we'll grab that and throw that into the texture of our area light. And now you'll see why we use an area light rather than a infinite light. And so now we're just going to kind of click up the spread just a smidge. That's again a technical term, to like 0.004, and that's just going to give us this nice cloudy look just like that. So that's something you just can't do with an infinite light. You have to like build a shape, cut it out, and put it in front of it. But now we can just throw that in there really nice. And the cool thing with that is it's going to also work with our volumes and volumetric lighting. So we've got our ornithopter here. I don't hate how it is, but I want it to be a little more in the shot. So one thing I like to do is with my camera selected, I go in here to display and I turn on grid, right? And that way we make this like bright green. So now I can kind of see the rule of thirds with our shot here. And that's inside the camera. So I want to have obviously the worm in the shot. I think kind of like that. And I want to move my worm. I want to rotate it so I'm looking straight down its big old eyeball mouth. Like that. And we'll pull it forward and down a bit. Like that. So we want the scale of it to really be obvious. Looking good. Cool. The teeth look so good. Okay. The skin, we can come back to that. I think we should just add another layer of displacement on it, honestly. Which we can do if we just copy this and go to shading. So we just control click drag that and maybe delete like some layers off that, refresh. And we'll grab this and that and crank it up. Yeah, that's giving us a lot more small noise on it. It's looking good. Let's scale that up a bit. We don't want it to be that small, but maybe like that. Yeah. And then we'll change that from intensity centered to just intensity, which will make it all push out, right? And then we can really dial that back in. And we might be able to just get away with something like, keep scaling it up a bit. Maybe we do intensity centered. I like to swap it around, see what I get. Okay. Not shabby. Again, we can change up our displacement and do like this, you know, turbulence or something and see if we like anything we're getting. And we're just trying to get our worm to look less sharp. Now, I don't mind the sharp line for the shadow of the mouth because I like that. It looks like you're about to go into this mouth, like it's ready. Anyway, so we'll scale this up a little bit. And maybe this up. And that's not terrible. And increase that. Yeah. So maybe we jack that up really high. But then we really make it bigger, say 0 in here. And this is getting kind of like, this is the boring part. I hate this part, right? It's not fun to watch. It doesn't feel like we're making progress at this part. This is like part of the process that's important. It's just annoying to me. I don't like the fine tuning. I'll spend forever on this. But we'll try something else. Maybe just regular noise would be enough. Ooh. What if I make that smaller, like 1,000? Do that. A little spiky, right? Okay, and then we just kind of take this white and we turn it down to like a dark gray. And that's going to bring down the intensity of that. And then we can take that down to like 1,500. And bring it back up 2,500. We're getting there. Yeah, somewhere around there. Let's say 2,000. We'll stop with that for now. That's not bad. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So 2 layers of that displacement on there. And our worm's looking pretty good. I think I'll take the linear field off of that one and let it displace the mouth just to see. No, I won't. I won't do that. Just wanted to know. We can't pull it up so it goes a little further. Like that. Not bad. Okay. Anyway, back to our framing, how we want it. I kind of want the eyeball to be like right on this spot here. But I also like it being right in the center, kind of like the thumbnail art. So we're going to kind of try that as well. So maybe we can get like right here. I like that. Maybe we take our little ornithopter. I don't want to get super close to that because it's not like the best high poly detail model, but we'll play around with it. We'll use the placement tool and we can shove it right here, right? And it's like, that's too much, right? That's too much in my face. Too much like, look at me, I got an ornithopter. So I kind of want to put it like back here, like kind of out of the way. Maybe like there. So like right on that cross point. I think that's pretty good. And then we take our guy and put him up here. And that's going to be our Fremen. Yeah, I like that. That looks good. Because now you can't tell that it's not like that high detailed or anything. So for the Fremen, back to Sketchfab, back to Dune. This guy, Fremen of Dune. Now he comes in without the textures working or anything really. Just the skin texture kind of works. But the models and stuff are there. Let me go ahead and open that because I think I have it open. Fremen. Okay. Yeah, so here's our guy. Do I have him in a scene? Yes, I do. So he comes in like that, and you can kind of fix his materials and just throw them on whatever you want. Let's go ahead and grab this. And basically I have, is this the one I have my Fremen guy here? No, I don't have my Fremen guy there. Michael's just now getting into the pizza thing. Nice. All right. Fremen, Dune 4. I think he's in Dune 1 or 2. Sorry, chat. We'll get him. I have so many variants of this. It's silly. This is him. There he is. So we've already got him with his materials and stuff on. So we'll go ahead and grab him. Bring him in. Back to our Dune Live. And paste him in there. There we go. And we'll go ahead and click him and pull him up here. Oh, buddy. Now we're talking. Let's get rid of our mannequin now. So the cool thing is because we have this guy, like when you get assets and stuff and bring them in, because we made it all to scale, everything just kind of fits in nicely. So we've got our guy here. And the main thing I have going on with him is like a little wind and a bend on his cape or his cloak. And that's really it. But we're going to rotate him so he's facing the worm like that, right? So he's going to be kind of right here, this focal point. The worm is going to be kind of, we want the worm to be really central here, right above the central line. So your eye is going to kind of go around in this triangle here, like that. Okay, so we'll hit save. We'll play on this, and then we'll work on the fog, which is really what's going to sell this and make it super cool. All right, so we're looking decent, but we need to take it to the next level. So we're going to save. We're going to turn on our landscape tessellation and see what that looks like here real quick. And this is partly why I didn't make this a tutorial and I did a live stream, is because when I cut it down enough to be short enough, it was just like, it was just became like a point and click, like do this, do this, do this, do this. And I don't like teaching like that. So not the biggest fan of that style. So I said, you know what, we'll just do it live. Even if Redshift decides to freeze and break everything. We'll take our worm. We'll grab our worm. We'll do the tube worm. And we'll pull that back down. I think it's too high. So take that down, pull it back off the mouth. And we just want to make sure that this landscape is, in fact, getting that displacement. Refresh, refresh, refresh. And I want to make sure that it is, because I want my sand to come in. And it sure as heck doesn't look like it is, does it? So we'll try 400 and 400. It might be that we just have too much going on, but it's getting a little bit of displacement, it seems. Just, I don't know. Maybe we just need to keep amping it up. There we go. Okay, so somewhere in between that. 250, 250, like that. Gone. All right, so we'll get into the fog and stuff here now that we're getting our displacement kind of worked out. Better, I think we can probably just drop this down to maybe 60 and maybe like a 0.01 for the blending amount. Refresh. It's annoying. Okay, so here's a trick with Redshift displacement is once you do get it kind of where you want it, right? And right now, like I've got it displacing, and if I move my camera around, you know, we're gonna have to wait for it to tessellate it again, right? Well, if I hit this snowflake here, freeze the tessellation, it's gonna do it one time, and now I can move my camera around without having to wait on it. So as long as I don't change the tessellation parameters, I can just leave it up and leave it going. So we can actually like make sure that our sand is coming in right. And really, I think all I want to do is rotate my sand so it's not coming in perfectly. I don't want to be looking down the sand lines. I kind of want it to be more like that, like diagonal. So we're going to grab that sand and just, we are going to rotate it, but I think we're just going to rotate it not randomly, but just uniformly. So we're going to grab all of these and rotate it like 45 degrees. And we will need to retessellate that time because we're changing how it's tessellating, because it's tessellating based on the way that the texture displacement map is going on our object. There we go. So now we're a little less straightforward. Maybe we do even more. Maybe we should go straight up here at 90 on that. Refresh. This is the annoying part. This is the parts that I cut out of an edited video, but thanks for hanging in there. I know we're coming up on 2 hours, but we are getting close. That's not bad. If you see any of these weird lines, like gray lines and stuff, they're not really there. It's just an issue with the OSL shader. Just hit refresh and they will go away. So that's fine. Okay, cool. So get our framing back how we like it. I keep moving my camera around instead of locking that in. So we're gonna come in here like, kind of like that. We're kind of scoop down a bit like that. Kind of just like that. Yeah, yeah, save, cool. Now, Redshift, object, environment. Boom, it's gonna come in, everything's gonna be blown out. This is what's gonna make this look so much cooler and more cinematic. We're gonna take our dome light, go to the volume tab underneath details, turn it all the way off for right now. We don't want to do anything. Now we take our area light and we want this volume to we'll leave it at that for now, and we'll come in here to the redshift volume tab and just lower this down to like 0.001, maybe 0.01. Still too bright, 0.001. There, it's a little better. We're gonna make this like sandy. So we're gonna come in here and make it like that. Okay, and then we're gonna come back to our area lights and lower down the volume attribute of that. And we're really just looking for, we want the gobo and the area light to, and the volume to create kind of like rays of dust or spice. So if we grab this and maybe like look more towards our camera, obviously, we're gonna see it like that, which looks pretty cool, right? So I kind of want to shift Control Z back to my original camera position and actually rotate my dome lights this way to put the sun kind of behind our worm, and grab our area lights and, you know, come here to the top view. Whoop. And if this is our camera, I want to pull this back this way so we kind of get that volumetric light coming in over our dunes. So that's kind of a cool natural haze, and that's where that gobo is going to really come into play. So messing with that, it's going to really affect it. So it really depends on your scene. You might want to go with something that has a lot more detail, like maybe this one, and you can just start playing around with different cookies or gobos. I like calling them cookies. That's what they call them in like stage, because you actually like slide the plate in front of the Fresnel light. So I like that. We can turn off our dome lights so we can just see what our gobos are doing, and you can really start to get a sense of how that fog is coming in and everything like that. So let's grab this area lights and I think pull it down like that, and maybe back towards the back of our object a little bit more, because I like those rays coming in like that. That looks pretty cool, right? And we'll adjust that by actually being able to add noise to this and like basically look like sand without using like pyro or anything like that. And so what we're going to do is create a new material. And in case you didn't know, you can grab a Maxon noise and delete everything out of it except the output, and just take this and throw it straight on the volume, and then grab that and put that straight on your environment tab. Now it's going to be kind of hard to see at first because the scale is so small, but if we come in here to like the input and the output down here, right? And we clip it up, so we say like 0.5 by 0.5, where it's going to be like pure white and pure black. We're just going to need to scale this up so we start to see bits like that. So you can see as you start scaling that up, you start to see how that noise pattern is actually in the fog in 3D space. So we're just going to go ahead and add another 1 on here, so we get 15,000. And now you start to see we get kind of this natural looking pockets of fog. So we're going to change this to turbulence. All right. And we're going to make it even bigger. We're going to say 55,000. Nice and big. We're going to pull the high clips up a bit more and maybe pull the low clips up a bit more, just to really get more contrast in there like that. And then for the scale, we're actually going to take the Y scale. So, you know, this scale, and put it like in half, which should give us squintier fog clouds, which should look more like sand blowing across. And speaking of blowing, too many weird worm jokes going on today. Okay, so this is going to be, you can animate this. So you can keep this how it is, or you can make a cool animated fog where you can actually just say, you can put a loop, you can put the speed, whatever you want, or just keyframe the offset. So, you know, if you keyframe the offset right here and go to the frame 90 and just offset it like 1 degree or like 1 amount in the X and keyframe that, you're going to get this fog that's going to like, see how it's right here in our scene. If you come down here like 50 frames later, you're going to see that it's moved. So it's just going to, you can actually animate your fog or sand blowing across your scene, which is a really nice effect, right? So because we colored this and it has a texture on it now, we just need to take this and make this color our sandy color. So this is going to be kind of our sandy red. It's going to be a little reddish, right? Because you got that spice in there. Spice is nice. There we go. And that's looking pretty cool. And now one thing we need to do with our environment is we need to come in here to the environment map and go down to ray contribution and make sure our GI is up to 1, which is just going to help that light bounce around our fog. And now we can come back into our area light and maybe start bringing up some of that volume. Okay, we're good. We've brought that up. Good. So now we can just maybe start bringing up the scattering a bit more so we get it a little more obvious. We don't want to go crazy, but that's going to give us this nice kind of foggy look. And now we can bring back in our dome light, which isn't going to affect our fog. It's going to kind of brighten everything up, but we still have that fog in there, but we don't quite have that depth of the sandy blowiness. So what we need to do with that is actually, let's turn, well, we'll leave our dome light on, is just mess with attenuation. So the way attenuation works is it's what brings in the actual fog color. I really think Redshift environment has just things labeled wrong. This should be called this should be called fog, everything up here, and this should be called haze, because this cannot be affected by our texture map and stuff like that. But this is actually what gives it like a foggy look. So it's more of a haze. So we're going to go with like a reddish sand again, like that. Nothing's going to happen until we start bringing this up. And you're going to see that instantly brings in that depth. So if you really crank that up, you know, you can really cut off how far back you can see. So we could like, you know, make our worm coming out of the sandstorm like that. And obviously brightening this up is going to make that a little lighter. So I want it to be somewhere in there like that, but I want to pull it back. I think I like the fact that I can't see down the worm's mouth completely like this, but I don't like that I now just have this like weird dust background. I want to see my sky map in there. Even though it's subtle, it was helping. So in order to do that, you have to bring the height of this up. So now we can say, okay, well, we want our fog to come up and up, and we're just going to keep climbing up until we get it somewhere where we like it. And there we go. So now it's kind of like up above our worm. We've got the fog. And so now we can start to kind of adjust it a little bit more if we want, or make it darker, which might help, but like that. So we can kind of bring it in, make it a little like this, like that, and then crank up the scattering to make that more apparent. So we bring our dust kind of back in, our sand is coming back in. So now we kind of have this natural looking dust that's going to be floating through our scene with our copter here. And if you don't like the way it's looking or how it's hitting, you can just change the seed, right? And that maybe you'll get a different pocket of noise that you like better. Like that, maybe you like that better. I don't love the way it looks hitting right there. I think that's going to be maybe a little bit better. And again, it's all finagling and twisting at this point, but that I think looks the best. So we'll close that, close this, close that. So now we have this cool animated dust and fog coming in. Our light's got this nice gobo-y effect on it. If we want to, we can again change that, and just to see if we want to bring in more light beams or weird different shapes or anything like that, or maybe we could take off the gobo and just have pure fog if you want. Delete. But then when it's like lit that evenly, it does feel a little more Dune-y. So maybe we do just want a gobo that has like some black, but mainly white, right? And it's funny how it hits, right? It's just, you never really quite know until you throw the gobo on there. So let's keep trying, because I don't like the way that one's hitting. Maybe this one will be better. Yeah. Okay, so that's giving us a little bit of natural bits, but we still have like a nice bright sand going on there. Cool. So we'll grab our Fremen boy and pull him down a smidge. Timothy, get in there, Wonka. Has anyone seen Wonka yet? Is it any good? I'm nervous to watch it. So I like the director. I love the Paddington movies, but I also love the old Wonka with Gene Wilder, and this kid, Jonathan, is not Gene Wilder. But there we go. Okay, so that's not bad. We can jack up this anisotropy to kind of shove it back, or we can pull it forward. But I think some of that fog was a little too much in front, so we'll pull it back a bit. Yeah. That's looking pretty cool. So at this point, it's kind of just like lighting. Like, do I like the backlit worm, or do I want some of the light to hit my worm's mouth? So then create kind of that cascade. It shows off kind of how big its teeth are and stuff. So maybe we grab that and we pull this back just to see how it looks if I light it, so that the light can go into the worm and kind of cast that shadow across its mouth. And I'm kind of digging that. Like, as much as I love the way volumetric light rays work coming at the camera, it's not always the best for your scene. So keep that in mind. I'm going to come here and I'm going to rotate my dome light now and pull it around so it kind of matches our area lights, which should help. There we go. So we're still getting the fog, the scene. Let's go ahead and I like this. Don't mind that gobo. We're gonna try one more, but I don't mind that one. We'll remember that one. Any questions so far, chat? Palm trees, maybe that'll look good. It's probably too much black. It's kind of cool though. Kind of cool. Somewhere in between. Like that, maybe. Thoughts? Maybe that. How long have we been going? This is a long stream. 2 hours. Crazy. I wish I could delete the malfunction in the middle. Okay. Yeah, when we start lightening up the spread, we start getting a little more of that fog coming in. So maybe 0.008. That's pretty cool. I'm into that. So let's grab our camera and just reframe this a bit more. Let's do like a 35. And we're going to come in here and we're going to come like closer to our guy here. And we're going to, let's see, maybe I want to do a longer lens, like a 50, and just pull back out of this. I don't know though. I kind of like the scale of our scene is so big that maybe it needs to be more like that. It's just like a big wide shot, right? Does our worm look weird? Does he need a taper? Is this like... Because now they're like big cylinders, though. He's not bad. Worm's not bad. Let's pull him up out of the ground some more. And like rotate him. So he's like kind of crooked. Like he's coming. He's like on the move. Looking at you sideways. And then we can change his bend angle. So he looks, oh, yeah. Kind of like that. And then we'll rotate him. So he's kind of more, I think that looks, oh yeah, that's definitely cooler, right? Is chat still working? Is anybody talking in chat? My chat. Let me refresh, because I haven't seen chat in a while. Could just be nobody talking. Yeah, no, it's nobody's just talking. Okay, that's fine. Just enjoying the show. I get it. That looks good. Let's take our chopper and maybe move it like more here. Kind of like that. Like that, and grab our Fremen dude. And maybe put him right in the middle. So like composition wise. We'll scoot this. Rotate it? Yeah. Rotate so the worm eyes in the middle, and we'll put our guy right here in the middle as well. We'll see if we can get him in this little pocket of light, because I really want him to have a little contrast. Yeah, there he is. But I want to make sure he's standing up. So we'll get out of our camera view, come in here, and make sure he's facing our worm, which I think he is. Yeah. Our great hero. If we want to, we can scale him up. No, but we don't have to. Whoop, back. Nice. Looking pretty good. Cool. All right, now we can just probably, we don't really need to do like depth of field or anything with this. If we wanted to, we could add some, we'll save because we've come really far. We'll grab a Quixel bridge. We'll add that giant sandstone thing maybe in the background and add some rocks just to kind of break up our scene. But that's the cool thing about deserts is you don't have to do a lot to them to make them look full, because they're not full. They're just empty. Big thanks. Let's grab any of the rocks. There's a cool rock somewhere. Oh, let's type in rock. Canyons of Utah. They'll have some good deserty rocks, right? Maybe not. Maybe they'll be too like riverbed looking. Yeah. I want more like jagged rocks. That's kind of cool though. Gigantic canyon cliff. Scale to my person. You can't even hardly see my person. Let's go back to rocks. We'll find one more good big rock. We don't want grass or anything on it, obviously. We want like a jagged rock. Related assets. No. And we'll do, just want one good rock. Ooh, that's not bad. Beach rock, but that looks like it'd be cool in the desert. It's pretty small, but we could probably scale it up. I like that it doesn't have any like grass or anything on it. Rocky snow pile might actually look cool if we change the color to sand. Beach boulder? No, let's do sizes we want way bigger than 8 meters, right? 3D assets, categories, nature, yes. Latest assets, rocks, blah, 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 blah. What's this one? Huge cliff. Is that a rock? It's a cliff. Beep, beep, beep. Ah, that looks good. Tundra boulder. Yes, it has grass on it, but we'll fix it. Looks like it's a pretty good size. We'll scroll down a little bit more. This is the tedious part of the process. That one's kind of cool. But we just want a rock. We just want a rock. Oh, those are cool. How big are those? Fairly big. Here we go. Thank you. This is what I want. Like rocks like this. Yeah. Like that. That's what I want. I want a rock like that. All right. We'll do 4K, download, and throw that in there. But we've got our big old landscape coming in here. And for whatever reason, those landscapes come in and they put the texture and stuff on the world root, which is just a null. It does nothing. So we'll grab that. And you can see it's pretty big. So we can pull that back and up. And we're just going to use that to break up that horizon. We'll scale it back like that. Maybe pull that up. And we'll make sure that that texture map and everything is coming in right on that. We'll make it just a little oranger. Just kind of blend into our scene a little better. With the vibe. Maybe too orange there, but kind of cool. Like that, maybe. Pull that up. No, like that. You also can just like scale it up like that if you want. And we're just kind of breaking up the horizon line just a bit more to add some extra depth. We can push this back further like that. And that's going to help with that fog, just create that depth that this worm is massive and up in our face. Cool. And last but not least, let's grab this rock that we just downloaded and bring it in, export. And of course, we'll color it kind of the same kind of red. Did I click export or did I miss it? There we go. I like live streaming. I hate when I have like issues and stuff, and I also hate live streaming because I feel like I'm boring people. So let me know if you guys like live streaming, because it's kind of gives you an insight to the whole process, and it's fun. I'm not going to ever exclusively do just one or the other, but let me know if you guys enjoy, you know, this. All right, so there's our rock. We'll put it like here. We'll turn this off. Where's our big rock? We said asset nature. Click, place it here. So I just want to break up the framing a little bit. Yeah, like that. Double click that and change it to be a little more sandy. Like that. And we'll scale it up and rotate it like so. And maybe a little more this way. It's very nice. Okay, thanks. Shove that in there like that. So we just want to break it up a bit and add some depth. So we've got our little guy there. Do I want to give him a black cloak? I kind of do. Gray fabric. Let's make it black. See if that makes him pop a little bit more. So right now he's kind of blending in with the desert, which, you know, makes sense. It's a little cooler though, yeah. A little 8-bit guy there. Yeah, so let's take this, copy, control, rotate, and rotate it around. Too far. Up and around. Scale it down. And then pull it up and over. I just don't want it to be like obvious. It's one asset. So, oops, E. Should probably turn off the render view. Boop. And E, 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 E. Thank you. And pull it forward a bit like that. Just to kind of break it up. Okay. That's really it. And then I'll add some depth of field maybe. And we can figure out our worm a smidge more. Do you think there's an existing R&D with Redshift cameras switching between a lot of details adapted with R's camera and an animation? I'm not sure what you mean by R&D, like research and development. I haven't checked the forums, but I don't know. That would be really cool if it could. I mean, that's kind of what Screen Space Adaptive is doing with displacement. So you would think it could do it with like if you could put it on a matrix object or something, right? Or a cloner, so it only renders out so far. Yeah, that'd be cool. Let's fix our worm. So our worm's texture is bugging the crap out of me. We're gonna grab him, grab our tube, and go into this, and we're going to just throw. All right, what's this? All right, let's see. Save everything. And the cool thing is all right. So before I jack this up, we've got kind of a cool scene. Let's play with this real quick. Let's play with the post effect settings before we get any further. We'll come in here. I always like to do a LUT. I always turn it to log space first, and I use filmic medium contrast. Where are you? Medium high contrast. It's going to throw that on there. Then we'll do color. Put that on, and we can up that a little bit and add an S curve, which is always a nice thing to do. Don't have to go too crazy. Then we'll add bloom, because bloom is really cool in the desert. It's going to make our haze just pop a smidge more. We'll take the like that. Nice. So we just have those pockets where it's really going to pop. Flare I would use if I actually had the light source in the scene, but it's coming in from the front, so we don't need that. So maybe we come in here to the red and take that out a little bit. Right? So it's kind of more cinematic, Dune-y, just like that. And we'll go to our blue, and we'll pump the blues up in the shadows, but pull them down in the highlights. Like that, which is going to give it more of that cinematic universe. But now our greens are just a smidge too high in the highs, so we'll bring those down like that. So kind of a balancing act between everything, but that's not too bad. And obviously we could take that into Photoshop. Exactly. Okay, yeah. Take that into Photoshop and make it better. But this is pretty good for, you know, low quality render and all that. So let's fix our worm's skin really quick. We'll grab our worm. We'll turn on his displacement here and see just how much this 1500 displacement does on top of that. Because it might be fine. It might not even show up because our screen space adaptive may be like, no. We'll see. But I like the composition of this, the framing of this. Our worm does seem big, right? Is he too big? Is this even doing anything? Oh, probably not, because there's probably, I think I unconnected it. No, it's connected. Let's put this one back on. Refresh. Yeah, I think we're just... Something about the worm's skin is bugging me. Highlight. Okay. I like the idea of this. Let's clamp this down. Oh, good. Well, that's fun. That's why I save before I mess with displacement. We'll open it back up, but then we'll be pretty much done. Any questions about anything else? I mean, we'll do some depth of field and the camera move. That it might be cool, but we have that animation of the teeth. But the cool thing is we built it in a way that we can move our camera around, change our scene, and everything will just work appropriately. Like, we're not using still images that are like a certain direction or anything to create the wind or anything. It's all 3D volumetric fog, all of that. So if you want, we can create a different angle, come in and look at it. Oh God, what has happened there? Oh my God, what's happened to our worm? I don't know. That was weird. Okay, so back on our tube, our displacement here. What if we make this like 500? But we make this like 10%. Actually, I probably want to do like 10% this way, right? Like, I want it to be like up and down. So it's like longer. Make this white. And make this like 5,000. 1%? 1%? Why is this? Okay, turn this off. This displacement is what I want. So we're going to come in here, turn off the camera, and look at our worm, isolate it. I want the displacement to run down the worm like that. Exactly what it's doing, but I want it to be longer. So 15,000. There we go. So big, long strips like that, okay? What's this? Why is it being weird in the mouth here? Okay, I think we're okay. Like that. That looks good. We got like Godzilla stripes going on. Good. It needs to be even bigger, like 55,000. Like that. Yeah. Okay, now I need it to just be way more subtle. So bring that down. Bring it down, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. And maybe even to make it negative. Negative 850. Okay. Again, maybe back it back to 2500. So we do have some variation. 5%. Like that. Okay, so stripes down the back like that. Is that what I want? Or do I want it to be more? We'll see. We'll see what that looks like. I want to turn this back on. Maybe this just needs to be set to intensity now because it's going on top. That's not terrible. I think we can change this to something a little more fun like FBM. And there we go. So now we can play around with whether we want it to be horizontal or vertical. Probably like that, right? That looks more worm-like. That's too strong. So again, take that down. And too close together, like that. Worm. That looks good. Okay. Should be good. So we built it in a way that we can come in here with a different redshift camera, right? And we can do like 150 mil. And we can zoom out here and look at it like, you know, do a kind of a orthographic E view of this if you wanted to, or like really punch in and do like a tight shot, like really show off the scale of that big old worm. Yeah, so we could do like a real wide angle, 18, really zoom in, right? But I would say maybe like an 85 and then kind of like a helicopter shot. And it could come up like that. And frame it up like that. See what that looks like. But we'll wrap it up here. In just a minute, we'll do one more thing. I'm getting really hungry, so it's been a big, long stream, but you can tell we kind of have the vibe, right? Okay, so we've just got to add something to this worm. I don't know what it is. It's got to be the bump. Maybe just see bump. Because the coloring's fine on it. I don't mind that. And the displacement as a larger thing is fine. So maybe it just needs some overall bump. But it's one of those things that you just really, when you're working on something, I need to just walk away and come back to. And it'll be there. Because I think a lot of this is getting cooked out by the noise. The what you call it? Denoiser, sorry. Amp, add it in there. Clamp it down. Say -3. Whoops. Unisolate that. Definitely make it go 90 degrees so it's going down the worm. Yep. Yeah, like that. Okay, cool. Something like that. But yeah, so we built it in a way that we can come in here and do all this stuff. We can, you know, if we wanted to, we could go into, let's unrender that real quick and go into the worm's mouth and like look out through the teeth, which might be a cool shot. We'll do like a real wide angle there. So we'll do like a 18 maybe. So maybe that would be a cool shot. We'd obviously need to just extend our landscape back a little bit, but that might be an interesting shot. We'll see. Something that I haven't seen yet. At least I haven't seen Dune 2 yet, so I don't know if that's in there. Play around with the fact that you can put your camera anywhere. It's kind of cool. Kind of cool. All right, let's go back to our other camera. Boom, boom. We'll add some depth of field to it. Turn on bokeh. Plug this in here. We want to focus on probably the worm and make this really low, like 1. We just want this rock to blur a little bit here, and we should be done at that point, honestly. I hate the worm. Why is the worm bothering me so much? It's bugging me. Is it the smoothing? It's the smoothing, isn't it? Turn this off. It's not the smoothing. Something's annoying me, though. Over that. This is where we start breaking things. This is why I need to walk away. Yeah, I love that director. Big fan of Blade Runner and stuff. Why has it become so uninteresting? Like, this doesn't look like that. So what? Why not? Why not? I'm really just fiddling around now at this point. Turn that one off. The original displacement was looking good, right? And now we've got it all jacked up. Maybe we need to make this the second displacement. Turn that one off, turn this on. Shading, noise. Just make it smaller. Make this bigger. Yeah, but make it negative strength. Is that okay? I really just want this to like mess with it a little bit. Crank this back up. We're getting there. Like that. Yeah. I just want some natural. I don't know. I don't know what it is about it that's bugging me, but it is. It's okay. We got the teeth. We got the worm. Maybe I should just bring the teeth forward some. Which I would do so by pulling it forward up here, which will make it move down there. That's better. Yeah? That's better. Couldn't put my finger on what it was. Just grab this, throw this, make sure this isn't clipping out, rotating out like that. Like that, yeah. Okay. Make sure we've got that depth of field strong enough on this camera. Click, click, 1. Worm. 0.25. There we go. And then maybe tilt down a smidge, pull up a bit. Yeah. Turn our displacement on our sand. It's on. It's on. So it's working there. It's not bad. I think possibly I do want to rotate it though. Wish we could just grab, since it's, we can set it to cubic. Nah, I'm not going to do that, though. I'm not going to mess with it. I kind of want it to go the other way, but this way, well, is that what's bugging me, is the way the lines, the sand are going? Again, this is all very finite things to worry about. We'll save, because I like our worm. I like this, I like that. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Crank it all up. It's negative, whatever, bigger negative. Yeah, there we go. And then that's just too much. I just made it worse. Pull it down. There we go. Yeah. Okay, cool. Worm. Our worm just looks stupid. What's our worm? Oh. This is the, I need to walk away from the worm. Bring him down. Yeah. He just needs a texture, this texture to be displaced. I'll try it. So now I want to push in, because I'm getting too much negative space, but I want to push in with my lens, I think. So we'll do like an 85. Like that. Let's grab our gigantic landscape. We don't have to use it, you know. Don't force yourself to use things just because you brought them in. Oh, God. Control-Shift-Z. But if you want to, you can. Just bring that in. Like that. Yeah. All right. I'm pretty happy with the way that's looking. So we render that out. Take it into Photoshop. Throw some filters on it, maybe. But is it just... What is it about the worm? Is it the line? Is it this? You know? Isolate my worm. Undo all the things. Get out of my camera. And stop doing what you're doing. There we go. Double click this. Hit UI. So we can extend it out. UI. Okay, and I'm gonna hit Control and backspace. And that's going to give me one big old plane there, which I can then loop select. No, that probably wasn't the best thing to do. I just select it, right? Or is it empty? No, it's there. There's that. Turn off soft selection. Right click. Inset. We'll just inset it a little bit. I just thought there's too much geometry there. And we'll see if that fixes it. It probably won't. But it might look a little better now. Unisolate. Go back to our camera. And maybe it'll look less sharp there. That's really all I want. Turn my bend and stuff back on. And that just might make his little mouth look a little less annoying. It does. Okay. Yeah, I just want a lot more fine details in these displacements. I'm just not getting it, but crank up the octaves. And maybe crank up the low clip and bring down the high clip. Give it a little more oomph. Our worm, there we go. I don't know. Just can't quite get it to pop like I did the other day. It's okay. We're good enough. Let's end it there. Any questions? I mean, I know I covered a lot of random crap, and you know, a lot of it is just the fine-tuned finagling bits, because making the landscape took like 5 seconds. Making the worm and the teeth, like 2 minutes. And then the rest of it is just nitpicking everything to death. So thoughts, questions, anything? Mic check. My mic is working, right? Just wait for the stream to catch up. Okay, good. All right, it's the cow. Pizza guys away or what? 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 Oh, why is this? Why can't I get that worm hide to look just right? Maybe it's a screen space thing. If I take it off the sand, have it just on the worm. Okay. Well, no questions, anybody? Nothing? Thanks for tuning in. It means a lot. Again, I know it's... let me know about these live streams, because I never know how to feel after them, whether they were worth it or a disaster. So let me know. Yeah, and also hop in the Discord and talk to me there for sure as well. For whatever reason, I cannot. Does this have to be on the Connect or something? You know what? Since we're not, here's what we're gonna do. No, we're not. We're just gonna leave that as. That's fine. Thanks, Thomas, aka Dannon. Welcome. Not welcome. I don't know. I'm losing my mind. I've got to eat. 240. I need to work out, y'all. I've gained so much weight. Look at this. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. That's way crazy. Don't. 200, 200. So our displacement map is working on our worm somewhere. Oh, now it's not going to be working at all. Come on. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you liked it. I've hit H or V. H, flipped it around. Don't want to do that. Okay, so that's too low. 1,000. 500 for the displacement size. It's funny how this is working. But we're pretty much in the last stretch, so I think everybody could figure out just a little bit of finagling to get it there. I don't know. Turn all this off. Why is this not? I don't understand. What if... Yeah, do we have to put this on that? Is that what we need to do? Is that why it worked for a second? It was because I had it up there? I'm hiding. That's it. Okay. It has to be on the connect object. 250, 250. That's better. It's probably too much still. 100. My dog's still asleep. That looks better. Do like 150. Turn the displacement back on. Teeth move. The wind moves. You can move the camera. The cape moves. I know. Love that you're showing us the whole process, including the fine tuning, everything I go and see what he ends up like. That's you don't see the side tutorial. Yeah, okay, good. That's a lot of my tutorials. A lot of the mind and motion workshop has that, because that's like 90% of 3D. Like, you get the base stuff done, and then it's like, okay, how do I take it from close to there? And that's really what that workshop's all about. So check that out. This is decent. I don't love it. I don't love it, and that's fine, you know. But we made a worm, we made a desert. I like this live stream stuff. Sometimes I want to do just more like playing around with kit bash and things like that. So let's go to cargo real quick, and then we'll legitimately in the live stream. Oops. Let's bring in like a desert outpost or something cool. Egypt warfare. Oh, okay, never mind. Never mind. He wants to update. I don't want to deal with that. Cool. Nice. Crank this up and bring this down in more red. See what that gets us. This is really it. Like, you get 80% of the way there, and then you can spend a full day on the last few tweaks. But that's where it all comes in. But hopefully you learned something from like the way the scattering and everything worked for the volumetrics and stuff like that. Because it's pretty cool. You can come in here and make moving sand and stuff without having to have, you know, a particle system or anything like that. So render. Thanks, Anthony. Yeah. It didn't turn out. I don't like the way my worm turned out as good as it did the other day when I did it for the stream. So for the mind and motion stream, but it's all right. Yeah, scattering didn't do too much. let's do the last few couple things, like play around with the lighting one more time, backlighting again, so we get those rays coming behind the worm. See if that looks cool. Does not. More like that. That's not bad. I don't hate that. Crank that down. That's not bad. All right, turn this on. Blah, 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 blah. Just let that go. Cool, save that. And hopefully you enjoyed, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, for real. It means a lot. There's been a lot of support on the channel lately and stuff. It's been super great. Let me know about these live streams. Sometimes it's just be problem solving and stuff. Let me show one last quick thing. Because it's something that I want to show is if you wanted to do like a simpler version or something and you just wanted to have your worm like create some ripples in the sand and do the dust. This could be its own thing, honestly, but we'll tack it in at the end of this. Why not? We got a plane. We're going to increase the segments, so there's a lot. We'll go ahead and grab just a cylinder. This will be our worm. Whoops. We'll just rotate that like that. And let's say we want said worm to move through here and push through our sand. Well, let's make this a little bigger. And we'll make this like 400, 500 by 500. Yep. Okay. And we'll go maybe 2000 by 2000. So obviously it's not a giant landscape, but this is all like a model, right? So do that. There we go. We got our worm. And we just want our worm to go from left off the screen to right, through the sand, right? Click. So it's going to go just like that. And we want that to kind of push up the sand around it, right? So we've got our plane, which is our sand. And what I want to do is make this editable. And I want to grab a MoGraph effector and then a plane effector. And actually, if you put that straight as a child of that cylinder, you'll be fine. Right click and say vertex and grab a vertex map. Instead of here, go to parameters, effector, height 100, that's fine. Fields, deformer, choose point, and then fields will grab that vertex map. Now we'll also grab this cylinder and throw that in as well. So now we also want to add a little decay, and we also want to add a curve where I want to bring this down and kind of curve it kind of like that. So now, if we watch, we also want to add a little bit of a, actually, let's see, hit play. So now we'll have that, gonna push that up. We need more geometry on our cylinder, right? So it looks kind of weird. So we got our cylinder here, and we actually just need more rotation segments, more height segments, which is gonna fill that in. And also in the cap, we want more cap segments, which is gonna fill in the front. There we go. And this parameter, this probably needs to be like cut in half, like 50. You don't have to go up that high. Like that, perfect. Okay. And then also on the plane, we can just leave it at that for now. We'll hit play again and watch this one more time. Why is this going so slow? It shouldn't be this slow. Stop it. Did I make too many segments here? Probably. And the plane, I don't know. Anyway, let's just hit play. It should go through and like slowly decay, but we'll push it back. It's going to push that sand around, and it's just going to leave this kind of like trail behind it that just looks kind of cool. I'm not sure why it's, I guess it's the back. You probably just want to tilt it a little bit so it doesn't have that like gap, but you can get the idea. You could do some tweaking and stuff and adjust the decay, but you can get how you could get that sand trail going through. And then on top of that, if you really wanted to, you could come in here and make this editable and isolate this and grab your vertex brush here, go underneath it and just kind of paint like the bottom of it a little bit, like something like that. We don't want to go crazy. We don't want to go up the sides too much. But we'll just do it like that. And then we'll right click and say simulation pyro emitter instead of our emitter. Actually, we're just going to grab this this vertex map, throw it into the emission object there. Boom. Come in here to the temperature, turn that off. Go to create material, pyro material, throw that on our pyro object and make sure that that is set to be kind of dusty. So instead of white, we want it to be kind of a reddish spice, right? Like that. Okay, cool. Now that's it. Unisolate that. Take this back. Let's turn off this plane effector just for now, and we'll just leave it as like the dust. So now you could get kind of that cool, like, you know, dust blowing up like that, which might be a better effect and cover up what you're doing anyway. But you could get some nice, you know, sand coming in just like that. So it looks like it's plowing through it, but it's not. But there you go. Ta-da. I know that was like a lot and 2 minutes and after a 3-hour-long tutorial, so no one's probably seen it, but there you go. Oh, I need to, oh no, that's fine. Yeah, so there you go. You got dusty worm trail going through there. Pretty cool. Oh, we could add that in here. Cover up half of our worm's texture with dust. So anyway, I need to close out. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for the 15th time. See you next time.